Nobody really knew who would make the first big statement in music in 2026. The charts were in flux, new names were pushing hard, established ones were fighting to hold on. Then Bad Bunny walked in and ended the conversation before most people had time to start it. He became the first artist in the United States to cross 1 million album units sold this year, and he did it in a way that left the entire industry trying to figure out how one man from Puerto Rico keeps rewriting rules that nobody else even knew existed. Before you move on, understand what 1 million units actually means today. This is not the 90s. People are not lining up at record stores with stacks of CDs. Streaming is free. Playlist culture has largely replaced album culture, and attention spans have never been shorter. Reaching 1 million units in this climate is not just impressive, it's almost unreasonable. It requires an artist that people are genuinely, deeply connected to. Bad Bunny has always had that, but even by his own standards, this is something different. The breakdown? His 2025 album, DeBÍ TiRAR MáS FOToS, moved a staggering 765,836 units on its own, nearly 766,000 from one project. And if you think that was just an opening surge, Un Verano Sin Ti, the album he dropped in 2022, still added 277,102 units in 2026 alone. An album from 4 years ago moving that kind of weight right now. That is not longevity, that is a phenomenon. Together, those two projects carried him past the 1 million unit mark and planted him alone at the top of a summit no one else in America has reached this year. Before we get into it, welcome to Celebrity Talk Show Room. If you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We cover the stories that go deeper than the headlines. Now, let's get into it. Here is where it gets cinematic. While all of this was happening stateside, Bad Bunny was in Tokyo, standing in front of Spotify plaques celebrating his entry into the platform's Billions Club Live, reserved for artists whose concerts have generated over 1 billion streams. Think about what that image actually represents. A man who raps almost entirely in Spanish, who came up in the underground trap scene of Puerto Rico sending voice notes over SoundCloud, is collecting billion-stream plaques in Japan while simultaneously breaking American sales records from across an ocean. The world is not just watching Bad Bunny, the world is chasing him. What makes DeBÍ TiRAR MáS FOToS particularly remarkable is how it arrived. This was not a calculated, radio-engineered pop album optimized for streaming algorithms. It was personal, rooted, specific, a project about Puerto Rico, about identity, about memory, about what it means to carry your home with you no matter how far life takes you. Bad Bunny made something that felt like a love letter, and the world turned it into a landmark. The critics were stunned, the fans were emotional, and the numbers told a story no executive could have manufactured. Authenticity, as always, hit different. The bigger picture matters here because this moment does not exist in isolation. For years, American music industry conversations quietly circled the question of whether Spanish-language artists could truly compete at the highest levels, not just chart for a week or go viral, but sustain, dominate, and define eras. Bad Bunny has been loudly answering that question for years, but becoming the first artist to 1 million units in 2026 is a different kind of answer. It is the kind of data that makes executives rethink how they invest in Latin music, who they sign, and how they talk about the genre to the rest of the world. One man's milestone just shifted the industry's entire frame of reference. People outside his core fan base sometimes miss something important. Bad Bunny does not play the game the way everyone else does. He does not do wall-to-wall press runs or flood radio with the same single for 6 months. He moves on his own timeline, releases when he's ready, tours when he wants, disappears when he needs to. In an era where every artist is online every day, oversharing every thought, that kind of restraint is almost impossible to maintain. Bad Bunny guards his energy, and when he shows up, the world stops. Un Verano Sin Ti deserves its own recognition here because that album's continued run is extraordinary. It debuted at #1 in 2022, earned Grammy Album of the Year nominations, and introduced millions of listeners who had never engaged with reggaeton or Latin trap to a world of sound and culture they had never encountered before. Now it's 2026, and that project is still pulling over 277,000 units in a single year. Most artists would celebrate if their newest release did those numbers. Bad Bunny's older work is doing it as if it dropped last week. The Spotify Billions Club live milestone speaks to something else entirely, a different dimension of what he's built. There are artists who sell records, there are artists who fill arenas, and then in a category barely occupied by anyone else, there are artists whose live concerts become shared cultural experiences so powerful that people stream the audio from those shows over 1 billion times. His concerts are not shows, they are communions. People who have attended describe them with the kind of language usually reserved for life-changing moments. He understands spectacle, emotion, and the specific alchemy of hitting someone with the right song in the right room at the right time. That is not a skill, that is a gift. So here he is, in Tokyo, thousands of miles from Puerto Rico and thousands of miles from the charts he just topped, holding Spotify plaques in one hand and a growing legacy in the other. The kid from Vega Baja who used to hustle beats in his bedroom, who was told that singing in Spanish was a ceiling and not a sky, is now standing in Japan celebrating 1 billion live streams while American sales records bend to his name. If you wrote this as a script, someone would tell you it was too much. But every number is documented, every plaque is physical. Every unit represents a real person who chose his music over everything else available to them in a world overflowing with options. 1 million times somebody pressed play and felt something. What comes next is anyone's guess, and that uncertainty is half the reason following him is so addictive. Whatever he does, he'll do it on his own timeline, and the world will be watching. Because right now, in 2026, Bad Bunny is not just the first artist to hit 1 million units in America this year. He's the most compelling story in music, and the story is nowhere near finished.